Hey yo, G Dash, boy, take your hat off. Fine. This week on Hats Off with G Dash Jones. Hey. Woo. Hey. This is, you're watching Hats Off. Woo. I know the truth from the lies. See the devil that look in disguise. Yeah. When you look in my eyes. What? Unlimited can't be denied. We have arrived. You cannot tell us that we can decide for ourselves. Man, hold on. The shells, never slaves, so we can rebel. You were watching Hats Off with your boy G Dash Jones. That's a fact. That's a fact, good people. Good day, good people. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining in. Today's episode. Oh man, when I tell you today's episode, who I have with me, woo, and the myth, the legend, he goes by the name of Richard Raw. Okay, listen, when I said, y'all hear it? Y'all hear it? Don't act like y'all don't know. Woo, stop! But I had to stop it one more again for the people. Listen, I got the man, myth, the legend with me here today. He goes by the name of Richard Raw. When I say we gonna talk. We gonna talk about some things. We gonna get into it. Take you through his journey. Listen, how you feeling today, good brother?
I'm good. I'm good. A lot of work. Just came from a community meeting, so you know the work never stops. So I feel good.
Absolutely. Ooh, listen, we gonna talk about that. I'm gonna tell we're gonna talk about everything that takes you through this journey of community activism, of hip hop, of Garvey City, of beyond those bars, okay, of cultural restoration project, of 10 out. I said, wait, 1, 2, 5 plus 5, 10 albums, yo, 5 plus 5, okay? How many stocks does he really have in stock? Okay, we're gonna talk about it all. It's definitely a pleasure to have you up here on my platform. Now, before I get into it, first thing I like to do, I do a thing where I say, G's going to update the calendar. When G updates the calendar, I'm going to mention some upcoming events. And I'm going to do my best to put it into spoken word poetry form. So wish me luck. But we're going to see. Now, with that said, because I have a list of events that are coming up, because people say, ain't nothing happening in Delaware, and I hate that. That part makes me itch a little bit, because there's always stuff happening. And I like to make this a little bit more difficult for me. So I say to you, sir, do you have any events coming up that I should add to this list? Just to add razzle dazzle. Let's go.
Man, I think man, it's too many to name, man.
Just give me one. Just give me 1, 2, or 3. I don't get. Just give me a couple.
The culture market, the farmers market, culture market that we're doing is coming up. I think that's June 22nd.
Okay. Oh, okay. Because y'all just did one on this that just passed. So the next one's coming up.
Yes, the next one's coming up. So we plan to do those every 2 weeks.
Okay. And is this another Northside situation?
Yeah, it's on the north side. Don't get me to. I had to pull up some documents to try to figure out all of the information. So.
And do you have a performer? Is there a performer with this one as well?
Yes. So we haven't named the performer yet. So we're definitely gonna.
Got you. All right, let's cook now. Now it's about to get fun. All right.
What's up, youngin? I see one of my youngins on here. So what's good? I'm glad you tuning in.
Right though. They about to hear. They gonna hear things today. All right. So this is G. Update your calendar. Here we go. Featuring with Rich Roll with me. We rocking out. I'm thinking. Give your weekend the proper spark by going to see it's Serrani. That's reggae in the park. And then I know what you want to do after the night passes through. When you wake up from the dark, it's the Daddy Day Fest. That's when, well, you know those moments that you've earned. Homie Potter and the Taki got you doing a silent auction, giving back to the fathers at the Soul Firm. You might want to know, hey, well, how much far is this week gonna go? I'm gonna tell you right now, you can kick it off that Clifford Brown Festival with Tracy Curry Trio. Now, if we start on Juneteenth, best believe also you got the Artzcape Cabernet. That's Ty Breakout, Jameson, Blue Tulip, Robert Moore in an open mic. You might even see May. Also, don't let me start because I'm going to get it right. The Del Art. Ooh, what they going to be doing at night. Who you might see. I promise you, they're going to speak directly to you. There's also a TAC Talk with Sarah Crawford, giving creatives everything they need to do so they can be mobile. I need you to understand. I just want you to be able to flow through to King's Cuisine, because what you will have seen is a spoken word open mic. Oh, it will just set the scene. Well, and if you know me, then you will obviously, you can say, hey, OG, well, where else could I be? I tell you to go see D Harv, because he's doing comedy and karaoke live at Icons, or when 621 is on, that's when it's full carbon live at Finnegan's. Delaware Music Network is managing this one. Then I know what you're feeling like. Oh my God, how much is going on? I'm telling you what you got to do to handle all of it. Just before it's finished, you're gonna slide through Northside Food and Cultural Market. All
Yeah,
right.
there we go. There we go. Northside Food and
Feel
Culture
right.
Market. Yeah. We're so happy to collaborate on that event. Our organization is collaborating with a few other organizations to make that a reality. Northside Spoken, we definitely want to bring something special to the Northside with performers and food and culture and dancing and you name it. So, it's something that we're doing that's new this year. So come out and be a part of it. It's beautiful. I think last time we gave out grapes. So we gave out big pallets of grapes. So free. Yeah.
Okay, so there's food there that they can there's food there that they can purchase.
Yeah, so there's
And
food that they can purchase. So we try to make healthy foods available, but we also have craft vendors that come in and you can actually purchase fresh foods. You can purchase from our craft vendors, but we actually made another connection and just gave away grapes. So if you came, people were just walking away with bags and bags of grapes. So that was cool. So our community, because grapes are expensive right now. Fruit is expensive. So, we were able to make that connection. Yeah.
yes, so go out there, that Northside Food and Culture Market. The performer gonna be there. Get your rock. You gonna feel good in your spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And get yourself. Okay, listen. Like you said, they got the craft. You can feel free to get your cooked food, right? I don't want to discourage that, but get yourself some healthy on the way, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's just the free healthy stuff, get the free healthy stuff and then buy an apple. Like, why not? Okay. Plus, where's the food source from? Like the vegetation.
So these are farmers that actually come in. So we have some farmers that come in and they make these fresh foods available to the public, for purchase at a cheaper price, at a cheaper rate. So but then there's also food trucks as well. We had water ice, we had ice cream, we had a little bit of everything, man. So shout out to our partners who make that happen. I think the Jefferson Street Center, as well as Maze, they we just joined together. It was Corey Beeman, who lives in our neighborhood, and she wanted to do something like that. And so we just brought organizations together and made it happen. It was her creative vision that birthed this, and we just joined on to help propel her vision and take it to the next level. So it's beautiful.
No,
Yeah.
that's no. Listen again. Don't go out there and just try to get some ice cream and leave. You better get some vegetation. They got live farmers out there. They ain't even sprayed with all the stuff that they do. Never mind. Let me not start.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, all right. Now let's get into it with you. Now again, if you're just tuning in, this is Hats Off with G Jones. I have the one and only. Literally, he has started a couple different programs. Thought of as a community activist, thought of as a cultural leader. Literally done everything to help the youth and to give back in the places that really do need it, as well as being a 10-year child of hip hop and a 10-album child of hip hop, umpteen years, as well as 10 albums with The Crown, right? And I'm talking about The Crown because he also just released a video for that song. So shouts out to that. And he keep talking about his next album already. All right, he just put this video out. The album came out probably 7 months ago. He already working on the next one.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Tell people a little bit about yourself, good brother.
I'm a community member. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people would put the diadem of leadership on me, and I guess I can take some of that because I have a lot of elders that have passed us the diadem, and baton of leadership. So I wear that proudly, but I consider myself just a humble servant in my community, just a resident. I do music, but music is a part of cultural expression. So I don't do music as a form of to entertain people, but to educate people. It's just a part of, it's just a deeper level. You know what I'm saying? I just do music as an expression of culture. You know what I'm saying? So that's just really me. You know what I mean? I don't big myself up too much, man. I'm in the grand scheme of things, I'm just your fellow brother, you know, putting in work in the community.
Oh, okay. Let's back up, Mr. Fellow brother of the community. I gotta start all the way back at young Richard Raw in Garvey City, right?
Yeah.
Your journey. Can you tell me about kind of your journey through Garvey City and hip hop? Like, kind of what got you through those things? Yeah, because I feel like they connect. My spirit says those two things meet somewhere in your journey.
Yeah. So you know, I'm a resident of Garvey City. I grew up. I was born on the west side of Garvey City, but my grandmother lived on the north side. So we went. So we went to the north side, is where I fell in love with hip hop. My grandmother grew ill, and we had a home that we gave up because my mother told me it's very important to take care of our elders. So we vacated our home and moved in with our grandmother, and that was tough because my grandmother lived in squalor conditions. So we had to take the house and we had to change it and uproot where we were on the west side with all of our family. Moved in with our grandmother, and that's where we stayed for a long time. I was probably 5 years of age when I moved to the north side, but I already been coming to the north side prior to that. So when I came to the north side, I found hip hop. It was hard for us to like be accepted because the north side was a different culture. You know, west side was more of an integrated community. The north side was different. You know, you found a lot of people who were impoverished. And so that's where I understood poverty at a deep level. What people don't realize is the area around like Market, 25th, 26th, 27th and Market, that area wasn't available to people of African descent. That became available through blockbusting, which is a scheme that was developed by racist developers. You know what I'm saying? So if you know your history, blockbusting is where there was nothing but affluent white people who lived in that area. And, you know, developers created a scheme to push black people in that area and create duplexes. So as opposed to one house, they created these duplexes where you can live upstairs or downstairs, and they charge the same amount to black families for renting one floor as they did the whole house. So that's how my grandmother and grandfather, like, they came to the north. They were on the north side and was able to purchase a home. Once they was able to purchase a home, they built a life. And that's where my family actually, that's my earliest memories of the north side. And that's where I fell in love with hip hop. When we moved from the west side to the north side, black culture was, you know, it was on the beam. And this was during the latter part of the 80s where we had the conscious hip hop. And so I fell in love with hip hop. I fell in love. You hear my daughter in the background. I don't know what's going on. I'm a family man. You know what I'm saying? You're going to hear that. But I fell in love with hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And when I fell in love with hip hop, my mother was already a community organizer. So the hip hop I fell in love with made perfect sense because she was already doing community work. You know, she was working for the Wilmington Housing Authority, and then she started working for this group called Methodist Action Program. She did community work with young people, so she made me volunteer my time. I didn't want to volunteer my time, but she made me, and I didn't get paid for it. But all the other people that were getting summer youth jobs was walking around getting money, and they used to tease me because they was getting money, and I ain't get no money. You know what I'm saying? But she was just teaching me the importance of giving back. She planted the seed in me. And so that's where, like, this is my upbringing. So she used to do things like at the program, they would get excess food, and she would make me take the food, bag it up, and walk it around Northside and go to all single mothers and drop that food off. So this is where I begin to understand the needs of our community. She made me do things like I would see people who were impoverished. She would put money in my hand. She would buy socks and make me go over and give them these items. And I thought it was weird because I was scared to death of these people. I'm like, who are these people? You know, people who were unhoused, people who didn't have much. And she made me do these small little things. And that's what taught me, you know, about racism. It taught me about poverty. I just learned a great deal. It was like you know, a school for me. So this is my upbringing, is, you know, and then couple that with hip hop. So you got Public Enemy, you got, you know, you got Boogie Down Productions, you got all of these conscious artists. So whatever she's teaching me is reinforced through the music. So the Richard Raw that you see today was planted, carefully planted at that early stage. And that was in the 80s. And I was rapping since the 80s. And I still rap and I still tear people apart. I tell them that, like, yo, I'm an OG in this and I'm nice with this too. But I don't brag too much, but you know, I gotta really look back at my illustrious career and say, yo, I've done this, and I put bars out. So, you know, I feel comfortable saying that.
Facts. Okay, so now you growing up, right? Again, in this area, in these areas, but you know, you had your family, right? Like, you necessarily, what you were, the people you were helping wasn't necessarily the people that you were, right? What was that like, and even dealing with them when they was hitting you with the little, oh, word, you ain't working, you ain't getting it? Like, how do you manage those moments?
Man, it was beautiful, man. I mean, most of the young men from my neighborhood, they didn't have fathers. My father was the father of all those young people in the neighborhood where I directly grew up. So they used to they say, yo, what up, Pops? And my mom was their mother, because a lot of mothers it was single mothers, and it was really no fathers. My father used to take young people fishing. He used to just take people all over and just, you know, just show them the importance of a man giving back to the community. So what I'm telling you, like, the Richard Raw that you see is what I came from. You know what I'm saying? And so when people used to tease me, my mother used to just, you know, confer to me like, oh, don't worry about that, because later on in life, you're going to blossom with these jewels that I'm giving you. So you don't have to worry about them. You just stay on the right path. It was difficult, you know, as everybody laughing like, yo, I got new J's. I couldn't afford all of that. My mother wasn't going to buy me that. I didn't get J's until I was like, you know, my 20s, when I started working. You know, my mother didn't allow me to even take a summer youth job because she felt like, you know, we can take care of you. Leave those spaces open for somebody else. So this is my upbringing. Like, this is real talk. Like, the Richard Raw you see, I came from, you know, this whole, I don't want to say activism, but I came from this culture work. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, for me, it's so important, because I seen it. I seen, you know, single mothers that was just trying to get by, you know, and I had to work with them. I had to and I used to wake up in the morning and my mother would make me go and get the newspaper for all the elders in the whole community. You know what I'm saying? So I'm walking back with a million, like a wagon full of newspapers and coffee and all of that. And I hated doing it. Like, this wasn't something, I was a young boy while everybody else was playing basketball. They waking up doing it, they having fun. And they used to tease the hell out of me, you know, because, and I'm like, man, I want to go play. I want to go. But my mother didn't let me do that. Like, she planted the seed early on. Like, no, this is what you need to do. Our elders need to be taken care of. Their legs don't work as well. So it just taught me a whole bunch about community work. And it just made me into who I am, man. I'm so proud of what I came from, man. I come from good stock.
So how long did it take you to get it? Right? You didn't feel like doing it. You out there serving the people. How long did it take you to be like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing? All right, you're right.
Yeah, you know, probably it took years, man. It probably took like 2009, 2008, 9. That's when I really found my lane and my niche. So when I dropped my first album in 2013, I was doing mixtapes and trying to be other people. Like, I used to create music like 50 Cent. Like, there's still records out there where I used to rap crazy because that's what I was around. So I kind of adapted to my environment. In 2013, I made a decision to be unapologetically me. Like, don't be afraid of that. But the industry wasn't that. The industry was full of like the 50 Cent, Dipset. That's what was popular. So I had to make a shift and a turn away from that and create the music that I understood, you know. And
let me back you up. Let me back you up a little bit. When you first started to write, like, you fell in love with hip hop. It's the 80s. You got everybody from, like you said, Public Enemy, Run DMC, LL, all these things happening. But you decided to pick up your pen. What made you decide to write?
My sister. So when we moved from the north, when we moved from the west to the north, I got two older sisters, and the one that's in the middle, she started rapping. That was the way she was able to acclimate herself into the Northside. It wasn't like she was accepted. Like, we fought every day because they were like, "Who are you?" Even though we were coming there since we were young, now that we were living there, it was tough. We wasn't just accepted. So we fought our way through. Like, we had to fight constantly.
I want to give a time out because shouts out to you. And we had to get here, but you said, listen, yeah, they picked on him. He left out the part where he was beating they behind up too. Like, there's a side to that. Like, there's a side to get picked on that didn't end well for other people, apparently. Okay.
Yeah. So like, yeah, we had to fight, but she found hip hop, and she was able to make a lot of friends through hip hop. And so likewise, even though I was really young, when I started writing, I started realizing this other MCs I used to battle. So I came from battling. That's all we used to do. And I battled my way into becoming friends with everybody in the neighborhood. So that's what it was about. Like, how sharp is your pen? And I used to spend the winters writing and then the summers battling. So I made a name for myself by being a battle MC. And the hottest thing was like Project X. So Project X was like in 89, 90. Project X was everything. So Grand G was the top artist. He was the best. So I went into the rim shop. He used to have a rim shop on Market, and I walked in and I battled him. I went around 2-4. I'm like, yo, I'm great battle. So we walked in. It was probably like maybe like 30, 40 people. And I was like, let's battle. And he laughed, like, battle? Like, you know what I mean? You just a little kid. And I'm like, yo, I'm ready. I studied you. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready. So he threw on a beat. I was like, throw on a beat. So he rapped. And he kind of was like, yeah, whatever. You know, him and his boys, he rap, you know. And then I rap. And he was like, oh, you serious? And I'm like, yeah, bro, let's go. So that changed everything. So, you know, it wasn't kind of a battle in his eyes, but to me, like, I need to battle you to see how good I am. And I stood the test. I was right there with him, even though I was young. And that's all I needed. That gave me the confidence to like become an artist, like become a real artist. Because everybody was flipping, everybody was doing all that. Me, it was bars. I just wanted to do bars. I don't want to go play basketball. I don't want to do none of that. I want to rap. And I fell in love with it. But it was no outlet for us. So you got to think, in school, there was no outlet for hip hop. And that's what I wanted. Everybody's playing instruments and there's choir and chorus, but nothing for hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So I got into a lot of trouble, you know, started selling weed, just stealing cars. I used to do a lot of dumb stuff because there was no outlet for music. You know what I'm saying? And so you can understand why we created Beyond Those Bars, because we need to create an outlet for young writers. And so that's kind of like tying all of this in through the conversation, if you catch my drift. Like, everything from then makes sense now.
And I gotta take a moment. Shouts out to OG Grand, Riverside Bucket 26 Classic. You know, listen, class Delaware. Believe it or not, for those of you who are outside of here that may be watching this, it's definitely has a foundation in hip hop that is amazing. One of the things that you mentioned that I have to highlight, and it goes into your artistic expression, right? The theory was, hey, listen, it goes from me throwing some things to defend myself to me writing my way into acclamation of the hood, right? People don't know that is the birth of hip hop.
Yeah.
I just have to say it for some people in the back, for some people who may not have caught hip hop in the same vein or same time frame. Hip hop literally birthed in a space to bring people together to stop violence. I know it sounds crazy for some of the things that people hear now, but that's literally why hip hop came from, is if I can write and I can battle my way through things, we're going to make new friends, and I'm going to wind up being able to put this thing together and be cool with everybody. And that's literally his story, which is hip hop, right? So, yeah, like that's, like, I think that gets lost in moments like, oh, Drake and Kendrick beef and all these things that happen, and it's like, well, I'm sorry, there was a time when that was going to be a two gang war and fisticuffs and shootings and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But bars keep it safe. Like, that's literally where the written word came from. So it is two men spitting poetry at each other, but I'd rather that than them throwing fists or bullets at each other. So that's.
Yo, let me tell you something. Like, so on 30th and Market, right? I used to go out on 30th and Market. I was probably like 8, maybe 16, 17 years old. It was a dude, I think his name was Bodie. They used to get money out there. So we used to hang around the young boys. And I used to go around there. One day he was like, yo, you my young boy. And I was like, I don't know what that mean. I don't know. He was like, nah, you my young boy. You nice. So you gonna battle. So I used to go around. He used to like, yo, come around every Friday. I used to go around Fridays and I used to battle. And then he used to send me home. He'd be like, yo, here go $200. At 16, that was crazy, $200. But they used to make bets. And that's how like I really honed my skill and my craft. I remember, you know, his name was Disco Beef. Disco Beef, yeah, I had to battle him. You know what I'm saying? And I like won money from battling all of these guys. And like, that's what I used to do. And it was like, I can make money doing music. So it was dangerous because I remember like, you know, out there, I'm rapping and somebody sprayed the whole block up. So we had to run and duck. It was crazy. But, you know, I survived, but that's what I came from, man. I came from those humble beginnings, man. And, I just look back and I just love it. I love what I came from. I came from so much, you know, and that's spending time with my mother and then spending time out on the block. You know what I'm saying? With people getting money and you around it and you seeing them getting money and they like, yo, here you go, young boy, go to the store for me. Go buy me like some shrimp fried rice. We on the block, buy yourself something, come back. And I'm just chilling out with them, even though I never like partook in any of that at that early stage. I was just like around just as a boy that used to rap, you know what I mean? And they all accepted me. So it was like, all right, this is cool. This is cool. I like this.
Wow. Okay. Right now you're around, you into it, right? You get to kind of you get to join it into that street world a little bit, especially and then your raps are starting to reflect it, right? You still rapping because that's all you know, but your rapping is reflecting it because that's all you know to a certain extent of being out and what the hip hop is doing. What made you curb your style? Like what made you say, you know what, I can't, or what happened first? You stopped wilding out and then you changed the pen, or did you change the pen and then you stopped wilding out?
So crazy story. So I found knowledge of self, just, you know, just around, I was around a lot of older, you know, gentlemen, like they were older than me. I was always the young one. I always was around because I had a level of maturity that was much different. Like people say, you got an old soul, bro. You like an old man. And I've always been that way. So I could conduct myself in a different way. So I was always accepted in the circles by myself. A lot of people that were around me, they weren't mature. They was, you know, giggling and laughing and doing all of that. And like, OGs don't want that. You know what I'm saying? They're like, yo, control yourself. So I was always around like that older element. And so just being around that element, I remember this story is going to go crazy. So it's a whole life story. There's a man who comes around and I kind of see him trying to teach knowledge of self. And we like, man, come on, man, get away with that, man. Nobody want to hear that, man. Even though I come from good stock, but what he was telling me was like super conscious. Like, man, don't nobody want to hear that, man. You know, you trying to cop up or what? Like, what's good? And you know, he keeps coming around, and I'm like, man, this guy is serious. So eventually, I went to check out his classes he was doing on 24th, and I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, it just changed my whole perspective, and I became an understudy of this older man, and this older man that I'm making reference to is my wife's father. So I used to sit at his table and he used to give me books. I never read like that. He would give me books and he would break down Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, the Moorish Science Temple. He would just give me a plethora of information. It was like, you don't know who you are. That's why you're doing the things that you're doing. You don't know who you are and you're chasing after people and you don't have a sense of identity. You know who you are. You're royal and you're special and there's value in you. And you should be careful about who you hang with and where you go. Changed my whole perspective and I started studying under him and I changed my lyrics at that point. I was like, I got to change. Even though after a period of time, I went back to creating the foolish music because there was no outlet for it. There just wasn't an outlet for it. So I was like, why am I putting out music and there's no outlet for it? You know what I'm saying? I wasn't confident and everybody around me was rapping one particular way. So I felt like I had to adapt to do that kind of music. You know what I'm saying? And so there was a switch again, you know, And when I met like my wife, she was young. She was like 6, 7, maybe 8 years of age at that point. So what I seen, she was bright. She was super intelligent. And I was like, if this man produced that kind of intelligent child, then I need to be around him. So that's what attracted me to him, seeing his household and the way he ran his household, and how she had natural hair. She never had a perm. And like all of the things he's explaining to me is what he's living. He was a vegetarian, so I became a vegetarian. Like I'm like, yo, I gotta change my diet. He's like, you can't eat pork. You can't, you know what I mean? Your body is not meant to eat pork, and you gotta watch what you eat. And so I'm just like, man, it was blowing my mind. So when I was going to school, I carried myself totally different. And again, people was laughing like, yo, you's a fool. What are you talking about? What are you reading? So all through my life, like there was always that element of people like, you's weird. You's a weirdo. But it was strange because I was there inside the community and I didn't leave. So I was there and I would hang around, but I was always the different one. You know what I'm saying? So I had to make a shift in my music again, after, the 50s and the dip set and all of that. And then talking to, my compliment, my wife, and she's like, you're Richard Raw. She told me that. She was like, you know who you are? When you walk in the room, you Richard Raw. Do you know when people, you have the ability to say what you feel and make it count because you're Richard Raw. And that was at the point where I'm like, I'm Richard Raw. I'm confident. I'm who I'm supposed to be. So strong women confirm, what I was supposed to be in life. And she's a major shout out to her, because without her, I wouldn't have that confidence to create the kind of music that I know I should have been creating.
Shouts out to Ali Shah Janelle. I gotta say the name, gotta say the whole name for those that don't know in the back. Also, your executive director. She does a lot of things in making this thing move.
Yeah.
Shout out to her. Now, okay, right. So then, after these transitions in life, you start to find your voice, and you start to. And by the way, just again, for those of you who may not know, the world did shift, right? Post 9/11, that whole life, and you get this Dipset era, you get the Ja Rule fades out. There's no Tribe Called Quest faded, De La Soul faded, Jungle Brothers faded. All of that native tongue styling had to be searched for, right? So it just wasn't available to the masses consistently. And to your point, when we feel like there's no market for this. So then when you switch back into it, how did you kind of attack that? What was your thought process kind of going into that first album?
When I was doing the first album, funny story again, 2012, I purchased my first property, right? Which is the home I'm in. And man, I was so excited, and I'm sitting there and I'm going through boxes, and I find a thumb drive, and I put the thumb drive in the computer, and I'm like, this is from like 2-3 years ago, where I was building a foundation for this album called Soul Sessions. I forgot about it. So I pop it in and I'm like, oh, this is the sketch of my first debut album, my first album. So I listened to it, and I had some bones, and then I started bringing in musicians inside the studio to actually build around all of this music that I had, these samples and these drums. And so I'm reaching out to like Brixton Saint and Tony Smith and Alvin Alexander. These are the, Tony Smith, Alvin Alexander, like Saida Bowie. All of these individuals studied under Clifford Brown's teacher, so they played like Clifford Brown. So I come from a jazz background as well, because on my block, when I was very young, they used to do jam sessions on the end of my block. And I used to sit there and be like, this music is so beautiful. It was jazz. It's like the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. And so while I would sit there, the OGs would be like, oh, yo, this is Charlie Parker. This is Charlie Mingus. This is McCoy Tyner. This is, my jazz knowledge is crazy. And a lot of people don't know that. But like, I used to sit there and they used to feed me all of this. So later on in life, when I'm inviting these, these musicians into the studio to work with me, lo and behold, they were the ones from the jam session, didn't really remember me like that, But I'm like, they're like, how do you have this ear for jazz? And I'm like, oh, on the end of my block, Miss Norma's house. They were like, what? That's where we used to have jam sessions. And I'm like, oh, wow. That's why I'm attracted to jazz so much. It makes sense now. So my first album is full of like jazz and soul and neo soul and funk, but it really has all of these horn players, because I remember that when I was like 7 or 8 years old, coming out my house and then going in and on their jam session, sitting on the records, and them like, yo, check this out. This man name is Charlie Parker. He plays a music called bebop. Check out Clifford Brown. Clifford Brown plays hard bop. Check out Ornette Coleman and Pharoah Sanders. They play free jazz. And then check out John Coltrane, acid jazz. Like, I'm just like, oh, wow. And I started buying all of this music. So you got to think, I'm young. Everybody's listening to hip hop. I'm listening to hip hop, but I'm also listening to jazz, nothing but jazz music. So Clifford Brown wasn't introduced to me through the festival. It was introduced to me in my neighborhood right on the corner. So when I'm creating soul sessions, I'm like hearing all of these riffs of music. Like, I'm like, yo, I need a saxophone. I need trumpet. I need several trumpets. And then I just became friends with all of the jazz musicians, and they started making contributions on that first album, piano players, all of that. So I was like, I need to make, I was trying to make an album like Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder, because to me, that is the greatest album ever. So my attempt was to make a rap album that sound like Songs in the Key of Life. That was my goal. It was a concept album. If you hear Soul Sessions, it's a concept. So that was my goal, but also to make jazz the backdrop of it. So that's like, you know, a lot of jewels, man, a lot of stuff I haven't really shared with a lot of people, man. You get exclusive.
Yeah, I get. Listen, sorry to tell you, I told you this almost probably 8-9 months ago. I said we gonna have this type of conversation. That's what I want.
Yeah.
No, I told you this is what I want.
I would say you understand, like, you know, for those that are unaware, but me and you can, you know, have this conversation. My eagerness to make a contribution at the Clifford Brown Jazz Festival runs deep. You know what I'm saying? Studying under Saida Bowie and Tony Smith, and like having them at my disposal is crazy. Like, I've learned so much from them, and they've taught me. They were like, you're like Clifford Brown, like literally, because Clifford Brown was obsessed. He was obsessed with becoming as great as he can. He was obsessed with it. And so they were like, you kind of remind me of that Clifford Brown. You're obsessed. You make so much music and your ear is tuned in a different way. They were like, you don't even play instruments, but you're hearing things. When they come to the studio, I'm like, this is what I want. I know exactly what I want. And they were like, how do you even hear that? And I'm like, I don't know, but I know that's what I want.
Did you produce your first album?
Yeah.
Like, did you produce
80% of those records, I made all the beats, and 80%. I made 80% of all of the beats, and all of the arrangements are mine. I know exactly what I need you to do. So yeah, yeah, that's production. Like, I was producing.
Did you already? So your first album, did you already have recorded songs before that, and this was just the first time that you kind of compiled it and made it?
So like 2 years prior to even putting out the album, like I said, I spent maybe like a few months just crafting the sound of it, of what it's supposed to be. Drums, I had, so sometimes I just had drums. Sometimes I had samples. I had just different ideas that I put together on a thumb drive. And like I said, I just had it and just forgot about it. So again, when I moved and found it, I was like, this was the skeleton of the album I need to create. And I was like, okay, go time, musicians, nonstop. So in my new house, I had a studio room, and it was nothing more than just people coming by. Naja Nicole, like, that's when I met her, and I'm like, yo, I got a record you need to get on. So I'm pairing Naja Nicole with Tony Smith, the Big Cat. Like, we got a record together on my first album, like crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I was just bringing in all of this energy, and it was like, man, I got a whole documentary. I got footage of the first album. I just never put it out. So
what we doing?
I got
What we doing?
the whole footage of it, man, because it was like so much. Randy Waters, that played in Brixton Saint, he played in a punk reggae band. I'm like, come through. And he's my bass player right now. So he came through. This was before he became my bass player. So I had him. I had so many players in the scene make contributions to that album, man. And it's a great body of work, man. It's a great body of work. If you haven't heard it, go check out Soul Sessions. It's timeless music.
Yes. How, when you look back at your pen, then how do you view your pen then?
Man, I don't know, man. I think I think I've maintained a level of artistic quality that hasn't been maintained. I think if you listen to an album now and you listen to what I did then, I just think there's consistency. You know what I'm saying? And as opposed to saying I'm better, that's a matter of opinion for everyone else to judge. I think I think I've progressed, but I also I'm proud of the consistency. Every album has a level of consistency and quality that's maintained, and that's what I'm excited. That's what I'm proud of. You know, and I have an extensive catalog, extensive, and I have a lot of music. So you know, when I perform, I'm going through albums. Like I'm going through this album and that album. I'm giving you a lot of different songs. So you know, I'm just proud of the catalog. And that first album was building that confidence, and from there I just had a level of confidence, like I can do anything. So I put out a funk album, I put out an Afrobeat album. I just feel confident as an artist because the message is quality, and I think the music has maintained a high level of quality.
Okay. So now we got Raw out here with the jazz influence, right? Decides to literally go for, already had the studio in the crib. So he, got it ready to go. Me and artists creating, boom. Develop knowledge of self. And then at which point in this do you say, I need to create a world of expression for others? And like, how did that part happen? So it became outside of you.
So those two are married. So in 2013, when I released the first album, we also did Beyond Those Bars. So my thing was, I don't want to come out as a musician, as an artist, just to come out and just have a product out there. Because at 2013, I already realized I'm not signing a deal. I already made that decision because I come from the African Center community, and so all I heard and was taught was maintain ownership of your artistic creations. And I heard sovereignty, autonomy. These are words that I constantly heard. So I just made a decision that I would put out music and I would find a way to get it funded and not by the power structure. Because I already, you know, when I was making those albums, I'm already having conversations like soda and Pepsi, those things, those are cancerous. So I knew at that point, like, you think I'm going to sign a major deal when most artists are, you know, happy that they're doing Pepsi commercials and Sprite commercials, and I'm vehemently opposed to feeding that to our young people. So I already was like, okay, I know that the things that I say are too controversial for a label to support. So I knew that I had to create my own label and sign myself and create my own company. And that's when I did Soul Sessions. But I was like, what is my service to the community as well? So my service to the community would be Beyond Those Bars. In 2013, we launched Beyond Those Bars. And right around the corner where I grew up, there was a community center. LJ's Playpen is what it's called now. But that was a community center we went to. And it kept us out of trouble. So I went to them and I said, I want to do a free program called Beyond Those Bars. I didn't have it worked out, but I did a pilot of the program and they allowed me to do that, to use the space. And so I was like, okay, we're doing two things. We're doing our community work and we're putting out our music. So how Richard Raw was able to get into doors and open up opportunities wasn't just through music. It was also because I was willing to do those free things and help the community. So that's when we did Beyond Those Bars in 2013. We were a for-profit, and then in 2016 we became a nonprofit. And that's a whole nother story. We became a nonprofit because being a for-profit, we just didn't have the funding to expand. It was difficult asking our community to support our efforts financially. Our community just didn't have it. Like, I come from an impoverished community, real talk. Like we didn't have much. And even though I had my mother and my father, it wasn't like we were affluent. we were still in the community. My safeguard was having my mother and father, but still they didn't have a great deal. My father worked construction, and half the time he just wasn't bringing home money like that. You know what I'm saying? So just being in the community, I realized that, man, what can we do? Because I know me, like I was getting into trouble because there was no outlet. So let's do Beyond Those Bars and create an outlet for these young artists, and see if we can get them into something positive. And from there, it just grown. We just grew it. When I first started, it was 3 boys in the community, and now we serve over 500 youth per year, and we're starting to expand even more. So it's crazy. It's a blessing.
What would you say is the difference in what the premise of that program began as to what it grew to be?
Yeah, when it started, it was just throwing paint on the wall. We didn't know what we were doing. We had no curriculum. We didn't understand how to assess students, any of that. So over time, working with creating partnerships, we start to understand where you gotta have an assessment tool to assess yourself, your program, what you're doing. And so we've developed all of that. We've created a curriculum, and then we've modified that curriculum constantly. So I created the curriculum. I was working, I was doing like paralegal work. You know what I'm saying? When I created this curriculum, and I felt like I was on a rat on the running wheel working in corporate America. So I'm like, man, I got all of these skills as an artist. And people, when they found out, 2013, 2012, 2010, like I was doing a lot of work, and people were fascinated to find out, oh, you work a job and you work in the community? I never knew you had a job. I'm like, yeah, I work at a law firm. So I had to stay at that law firm. And then one day I was in that law firm and I was like, this is not it. But I also knew that the type of music that I create couldn't afford me the opportunity to make a living off of music alone. So that's what I said. I have to create something that can feed my family, but also something that is a blessing that can serve the community. And that's what birthed like our Beyond Those Bars in our programs.
So again, shouts out if you just start tuning in. This is Hats Off with G Dash Jones. I got the one and only Richard Raw here. Literally took us up to the journey of becoming a working artist,
Yeah.
able to provide that also is providing for the community. To me, so full disclosure, moments that made me say, I need to interview this man. That. Why? Because a lot of artists in general, and it boggles me, don't know how to be working artists. They don't know how to kind of feed themselves with it, right? Even if you only feed yourself with it part-time, how can I make money off of this? Or they think the only way to do it is on somebody's stage or potentially with your music, which, harsh line to say, it's one of the hardest things to do is make money off of actual sonic music in 2024.
Oh,
That
yeah.
probably died like 2010,
Yeah.
making money off of the sonic audio, just the audio alone. That died with album sales, right? So when someone says, oh, well, maybe if I create this thing, right? If I create this foundation where the community needs it, so I have a
Mm-hmm.
need, I also have a product that I can lend to help market me providing what the community needs. It becomes a 2-for-1 moment, right? And then not only do you able to feed your family, you're able to provide for the community, and you're able to put out your art. Now, how did that feel after that first release? After that, you got this program running. What was it like to be like, okay, wait, okay, now we got to keep going with this. What's this going to look like? I gotta figure it out. How did what was that anxiety? Was there anxiety? Was there pressure?
Nah, no pressure, man. I mean, when I put out a record called Muhammad Ali, which just blew up. Like everybody around was like loving the record. They loved the record. They loved what the record stood for. And I told them, my mother, she'd tell you her hero was Muhammad Ali. So she used to tell me about Muhammad Ali, and when Hulkamania and all of that, she'd be like, no. You need to check out Muhammad Ali. You need to check, like, she made sure that I understood my culture. You know what I'm saying? And if anyone knows my mother she wears her heart on her sleeve. She'll tell you how she feels. Like, no holds barred. Miss Barbara is going to say how she feels, and she's going to say it in a way you ain't going to like, but she going to say it. So again, you understand Richard Rawl and my willingness to say things that could be controversial or call people out. It's my mother. My mother instilled it and put this in me, man. Blame my mother. Don't blame me. Blame my mother. She made sure because, you know, she came from an era where, you know, she was just discriminated against. She was dark. She was called ugly. So she always taught me, don't ever let anybody belittle you. Don't let them devalue you. And speak up for yourself and say what needs to be said, even if it's for other people. And she spent a life doing that. You know, I come from a long generation of women who worked in this field, like my great-great-grandmother. During the Great Migration, she used to feed people that would come from the South. So she was a stop on the journey, and they would stop at her house. Madam, I need to eat. They called them hobos, but these were people that were traveling from the South looking for opportunities in the North. And so she would get her stove cranked up, and she would cook them food. So, and she was also a herbalist. So like so I understand my mother the same way. You know, when I was young, she used to like do weird things. I used to think my mother was weird and strange again. And now, you know, people start looking at me the same way, but I come from that lineage. So I just, you know, I'm proud of where I came from, man. I'm proud of all of that. And all of that makes me who I am today. That's what's so amazing about it is the more I learn about my story early on, and I'm still learning because I was young and my mother's like conveying things to me, the more I understand where I am. So when I did soul sessions, you know, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This feels good. But like receiving compliments was, you know, it was normal because my mother and my father, yo, if anybody from my neighborhood knows, like they were it. Like people used to come up and worship my mother and father, like real talk. Like I seen them like cry and my mother pray for people. I've seen this. So that's what I come from. My mother used to help the community, feed the community, cook for the community. I used to have people live with us during periods of time because they had nowhere to go. They knew my mother's house was a refuge because she seen her great grandmother do it. So like when I put out the album and people were like, this is amazing. And then they see the work, people be like, yo, this is amazing. And I never thought it was different. I'm like, okay. You know, my mother's like, yo, that's who we are. We gods. You know what I'm saying? In her own way would explain like, yo, we gods. We little G's, but we gods. That's what she used to tell me. So I was like, yeah, okay, I got it. So, you know, when I put out the music and people enjoyed it, it just made me go harder. But, you know, people were like, yo, I love what you do. And that's normal to me because I seen my mother get those kind of compliments and I see her celebrate it. So, you know, I'm just following in the footsteps of the greats.
Okay, okay. Fun fact that I got, so I'm gonna tell you that I just realized. If you listen to how you speak of your mother speaking to you in certain ways, and then you mention how you mention your wife speaking to you in certain ways, there's a huge connection in that. And listen, I love that for you. That's fire. Like to me, I'm like, I see what you did there,
Yeah.
boy. Like that connection
I
to carry
found,
on the
look,
lineage.
and you're getting more familiar with Sha. So Sha says what, yo, Sha will tell you how it is. And she means well, but she gonna tell you how it is in a way that's gonna sting you oftentimes. I've heard that my whole life. So when I hear unapologetic truth or somebody, you know, saying something about me that needs correction, it's cool. I don't get too worked up because this is what I've been around my whole life. So I found a woman that was very similar to my mom, like wear their heart on their sleeve and tell you how they feel. But that truth helped me. So I know that they meant so well. So I just would sit back and take it and calm myself down. And it's what sharpened the sword. Because when I was doing these shows early on and putting concerts together, my mom was like, that ain't it. You making us wait around, you doing, and like I was sharpening the sword. My mom was like, that wasn't it. And my mom was like a huge fan of her son, but she would come and she'd be like, nah, son, you gotta put work in. Like you're not doing what need. No, that I didn't feel that. You didn't move me. And then Sha was the same way. It took so long for me to impress my compliment. My wife was not impressed. She was like, nah, you ran out of breath. You lost your words there. I know. You ain't moving around on stage. People ain't like she would tell me stuff like this, and I'm like, all right, I gotta sharpen the sword. I couldn't cave and argue at her like, yo, I think I'm like, all right, I take that. You know what I'm saying? It's an outside perspective, and that's what sharpened the sword. Women sharpened my sword. Real talk, and still is sharpening my sword.
Facts. I'm here for it. I love this. I listen. There's power into black women in general.
What?
Which a whole other thing. That's listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now with that said, okay. So now you got the beyond those bars rolling out. It starts to grow, and then you take it and then you say, hey, you know what? We got to restore the community in a cultural sense. And you decide to go deeper into not only community, not only culture, but still embodying hip hop. Like you decide to ingrain in ways that, you know, just you start to literally outreach, right? What made you expand into going into this cultural restoration project into that world? And what was that experience?
Well, like, so what beyond those bars, I thought it was great. But again, you start modifying it each year. You start looking at your workbook and you start saying, okay, I need to make some changes. So even though we're giving people access and opportunity for creative expression, you also realize there's a need to build people up culturally, you know, and have a sense of identity in terms of who they are. So that's when I really sat back and I said, it has to be more than just a program that teaches you art. Like we have to dig deeper, that people don't understand who they are and where they came from. I have a sense of identity that I formed, and I think they should as well. So we just started adding in components into Beyond Those Bars. We started adding in, I had another program we developed called KOS, Knowledge of Self. So we paired that. So Beyond Those Bars and KOS are two married programs at this point. So we hit you with culture, how to build character. And when I say culture, a lot of people don't like, you know, culture is beautiful because when I was young, there was a certain culture in my neighborhood. And I want to make this clear because there's a lot of weird conversations back and forth between, you know, African-centered culture and then foundational Black American culture, like as if it's two different things. These are two things that are related to one another. So, for instance, you know, that level of respect that I have for the elders, when you were young, you couldn't cuss in front of the elders. It was forbidden. You get in serious trouble, you know, and there was a high level of respect. So as I'm studying and becoming a part of these African center communities, same thing. You first thing that we do is elders, can I have permission to speak? So Black culture had the same thing. It's a related thing. So that's what I mean as a part of culture, having a level of respect for your elders, a willingness to see yourself as a part of a divine plan, to restore and heal the community, to meet the needs of community, because they're needs, like not just going to school, going off and living a good life because you out of the community. That's what we were socialized that way, a lot of us. And that's not it, because the community is still people in the community that are suffering, and we can be a beacon of hope. You know what I'm saying? And like, I just came from the East Side, so I'm a part of the East Side Revitalization Plan. I'm the community engagement specialist. So me and Shah we built a steering committee that consists of residents to get the residents involved in creating a plan that they see a best fit for themselves, not a plan that's by stakeholders and businesses, because that's what often happens. So that's the kind of work that we do. And working in Imani Village, we work in Imani Village. You know, we did a literacy session over there, and we're extending that to building healing circles now. So we've expanded our work over there. So there's a need for what we do. We're getting called constantly because it's a need. And, you know, we found a way to be effective in that work. And that's appealing to the normal, everyday people. I'm telling you, like, that's what I've learned, because in this community, there's a lot of people who are elitists, who have a knowledge of self, and they have an elitist mentality, like they're better than anyone else. I walk in the community, I'm your brother. That's why I kind of reject those terms, because we've been socialized into this hierarchical conversation about capitalism, you know, and I kind of want to, you know, move away from that. Like, you know, people can see me in a leadership position, but I can also be in a servant position as well. I can follow G-Jones. If you're working on a project, I don't have to be Richard Raw for that project. I don't have to be the Beyond Those Bars facilitator or the person that I can be the worker and I can carry in the ice. I can do that. I've learned that from Miss Ray Jones Avery is one of my elders who taught me leadership. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I watched her, pick up trash to carry. I'm like, you're the executive director. Like you built something amazing. And like, how, I used to ask her, like, why are you doing that? You got workers and she was like, what workers? You need to, let me teach you the art of leadership. Leadership is service. You know what I'm saying? And Hanifa Shabazz and all of I got elders, bro. Like I got real elders that put in major work in this community, in this city. And I've learned that you can't isolate yourself. And I'm telling you, it's a lot of people in this culture, African centered, Pan-African, they're elitists. I can honestly be self-critical of the organizations and that I came out of and the culture I came out of. And I'm just trying to change that and make sure that we meet the needs of community, that we're wedded to the community and we're not seen as outside of the community. You know what I'm saying? That's why I wear my J's alongside with my, cultural gear. I'm still rooted. A combination here.
I got a question because I'm just curious of your thoughts on this. I wasn't going to ask it, but I have to. I think one of the hardest parts with cultural preservation, right? Now, mind you, you got the cultural restoration. I think one of the hardest things with cultural preservation is the thought of keeping those positive elements of culture, right? Keeping those positive thought processes that keep a community without feeding the negative elements into that same space, right? And allowing it to evolve. How do you feel like we're able to even do that? Like in your brain, or is that, or can you not take the good out the bad? Hey, listen.
You take it all, because that's just a part of it. Community is going to deal with that. So, I mean, you gotta be flexible. What I've learned is two words: don't be static, be dynamic. So, when people see, I do African centered culture, I believe is a healing agent for all of us. I do believe that, but how do we make that palatable for the normal everyday person? So I'm not trying to create Egypt or recreate Egypt or great dynasties of the past. I'm looking and saying, what do we need to create? What do we need at this point? We need to create a dynasty that's fit for this time. And the only way we do that is if we have an impact on the spirit of young people, not the minds, the spirit. Because in our culture, spirit is alive, right? We're lively people. But you're starting to see a dimming of that light. So how do we affect the spirit, not just the mental? Because when you say the mental, the minds of our people and the mental, and we did there's a whole system around that where we treat mental issues with pills. But we are spiritual people. So if we deal with spirit, it's a different prescription for that. Community is necessary to create vibrant spirits. So how do we recreate the community? How do we recreate the community on that angle? And that's what I'm fighting for. That's why I speak up on issues that I think are important. In the city, I've spoke up on issues and I've been, this hasn't been an easy road, bro. You know what I'm saying? I've dealt with a lot of, opportunity stripped from me. I've dealt with home being firebombed. I've dealt with not allowed to do anything in the downtown district. I've been banned from doing anything in the downtown district for 2 years. So, I mean, and it's just a part of what happens. But, you got to remain strong. You got to remain strong and you got to just continue to do this work. And I'm just about that. But again, it's, I come from a community. I come from good stock. And I had to really sit back and reflect on what that means. So we're taking all of those beautiful things about community and we're implementing them now inside the schools as much as we can. And we're having a lot of success. So you take the good and the bad. You take the good and the bad.
So I gotta, okay. Yeah, okay. Let me go to that, finish that thought first. Right? Good and the bad, right? The analogy that I like to think of is there's a world where we're from technically, you know, in they would say we're from a people who already are outside. We seem like, oh wait, why they all standing outside congregate? Because that's what you go to Africa, there's people out there standing outside congregate. It's actually a thing, right? Oh well, why they pouring out a little liquor? Because if you go back there, they pour out. We think that these are things that we just created in this current space, but really it's generational moments or heritage moments. Now, with that said, in the Americanized way of life, right? There are certain things that can kind of come with that when you get to, you know, the drugs, the money, the this, the that, the wanting things that can only come, the wanting things that you kind of can't get from community. So they start seeking outside the community and bringing negativity in. Like, how do you you think it's possible to combat that, right? Or yeah,
I do, but I'm gonna give this as something that I think a lot of people don't do. That's what we have to develop. So my thing is, I invite you in to do this work so we can develop a mechanism to deal with that. And I think too many people just give absolutes as if they have the answer. And if they had the answer and was able to make it a reality, then our communities would be different. So I think, you know, again, is what we're doing on the East Side. We're bringing in a steering committee to create a plan that we can try to work. And if that plan doesn't work, we have to create a different one. So, you know, I'm always a proponent of not giving just, you know, sometimes from my experience, sometimes I will give an absolute, but I think we got to work together to try to figure out, what do we do? Where do we turn? You know, each community has to make a decision for itself and have bylaws that govern it. And I think we have to create I think it would be helpful to look at our culture and our history. We have mutual aid societies. And I think that's one of the things that we got to rebuild. So, you know,
okay.
And I got about 5-10 minutes, you know what I'm saying? Getting on here, I won't put the babies to sleep. I want to make sure that I'm available for that. So I just want to let you know.
Absolutely, yeah, because we was cooking. There was just gems all around.
Yeah.
I only got two more
Okay.
questions, roughly. One, so you take us through all of this. You build out this cultural restoration project, and then you get into a space of the Crown album.
Yeah.
What was kind of your motivation, your focus in creating that?
So I wanted to. So the album before the Crown was Orisha Soul. So I did a short film, Orisha Soul, and I did the soundtrack, and it was really Afrobeat and a spiritual album. Really African, like, you know, I speak a lot of African tones in that record. So coming off of that record, I decided I wanted to go back in my hip hop roots, but I seen so many artists that I hadn't worked with because my collaboration game is you know, superior, bro. I've worked with a lot of people. I'm sure you've seen that, but I hadn't worked with a lot of rap artists that are unlike that are not like me, like artists that put out music that you would say, how are you working with Geno? How are you working with Rizzy? Like, that's an interesting
But Dan out there,
right.
yeah, I
Even
seen that. I was like, wait, what?
Yo,
When I see that, I was like,
everybody was like, Jay, they were like, you working with, like, yo, I would never expect you to work with them, right? And that was the goal. Like, how are we sitting on a high horse and not coming down and working with our people, regardless? So that's what made me create the album. I'm like, all of those creatives that maybe don't make music like me, let me come close to them, because how am I going to impact them and have an effect on them if I'm not coming close and inviting them in? So, you know, that's for me. That's what made me make the Crown, bro. And the Crown doesn't mean I'm a king. The Crown, when I took my first initiation into Ifa, the name that was given to me is Ade Lumo. It means the crown. So I'm not trying to say that I'm the king or I'm the ruler or I'm the best in Garvey City, because I don't think that. You know what I'm saying? I think I have a lane that I'm good at. And I think other people have lanes that they conquer.
you think there's a better pen in Garvey City than you? Do you believe that as a rapper?
You know, I think some people are better at other things than me. Like, I don't think I practice everything. I think I'm good at what I do.
He dancing? All right, we'll put a pin in that. We get back to that.
To be honest, I think K Hawk equals my pen. And
Okay. Eye to eye with it. Eye to eye with it.
Yo, and I did an album with that brother because I'm like, yo, I don't even want to compete with you. Like we paired. Let's work together as opposed to apart when people were trying to pin us, as like, against each other. So I don't have that kind of like ego, man. I think Geno's dope, and Geno does things that it's better than me. I think there's certain people that do things that, like, I'm like, man, that's good. I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm comfortable in the space I'm in, man. I don't need to be the best. I don't need it. I need to be in my lane.
He said I battled OG Grant as a kid, man. I don't listen. All right, listen, we got time. Also, question I ask all my guests, I ask if you could give advice to a younger version of yourself, right? A younger version of you, little rich, you know what I mean? Little all out here. But the year is still 2024. What advice would you give a younger version of yourself?
Live in the moment and experience everything in real time. Don't rush. Take the time to experience everything and pay attention to everything, so that when you get to your destination, all of those things can be ammunition and tools that can help you on your journey. And I'll leave you with that, brother. I'm going to go and take care of these little babies. But it was a blessing thank you for having a platform and having me on, brother.
Before you get off the screen, can you give me a word?
The crown.
Oh. I'm thinking. I need you to adjust your crown, and I know how that may sound as if it was something that you've heard many times before, but no, now I need you to receive it as if it's profound. I need you to adjust your vision so that you're able to receive everything that you're hearing in a way that you can visually listen to what you're supposed to do and move in the right ways with precision. See, I need you to adjust not just your screen as it seems, but those things that deem that your frequency may not make it to where you're supposed to be. I just need you to sit down so you can do more than just notice me, but exchange those thought processes just enough so that you can grow with me. See, all I'm asking you to do is, before you take time to settle down, not assume that you're the best right now, but just adjust yourself in a proper way to perfecto. All right.
Easy, bro.
See, all right, we out of here. Yeah, I mean, Richard Roll, we got to do this again clearly. Appreciate you, good brother. All right. We out.